Good morning, Patriots. It's Chris Cordani, and it's August. August tends to be a slow news month, but not here on Wake Up Patriots because there's a lot to talk about. And as always, I have cousin Vinny with me, and we're going to talk about a lot of great things today. Vinny, sorry that Tony couldn't make it today. He is at a funeral, so we're sorry for his loss. But Tony will be back with us tomorrow, and Karen too. But Vinny, let's go on today. How was your weekend?
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Good morning, everybody. We have a great show today, so hope you enjoy it and tell friends and other friends. This is one of the best podcasts around.
That's right. That's what we should do. Tell a friend, because if you tell two friends, they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and so on
Yes,
and so on and so on. And we need that. We have to spread this
yes,
around. That's right. And hit that like button too, by the way. If you like what we're doing, we got to have that like button going because Ed's always
that's
happy when he sees people hitting the like button.
that's right. That's what we need. We need more likes, comments, and more people to view our amazing podcast.
That's correct. And of course, a gentleman named T.S. Dixon will be on with us a little bit later on. He's the author of a book called The Woke Mind Viruses. It's in audio right now, so maybe liberals can listen to it. There's no coloring book edition at this point. However, resurfacing last week, Vinny, were the leaders of the woke movement, or let's say the old guard version of the leaders of the woke movement, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, because we'll talk about that in a little bit. Joe Biden was yammering on at this event, I guess. I don't know why people still invite him to events. I just don't. Was it for all of us to laugh at him, to embarrass the guy? He's not even popular within his own party.
Yeah. Plus, why would you want somebody that has no clue where he is? He doesn't even know if he's at a party. he's
Um,
in wild land 24/7.
Well,
You know?
then he reflects the Democrats' base and constituency. They don't know where they are
Yeah.
half the time. They're in la la land 24/7, and they think every problem was caused by Orange Man bad. So,
Well,
so
the liberals blame the orange man, but the orange man is bringing in billions of dollars in tariffs every month and breaking records. The stock market is doing amazing. People are making money. People are starting to feel a little less pressure on themselves. Shopping and supporting their family and paying their bills. All right, it's still things are still up in the air. People want to know, well, where's the Epstein files? But people have to understand, we got one shot to do this, to take down everybody that was against the government and that did treason to the United States. So stop going on social media and putting down, where's the files, where's the Epstein files? Those files that have been swandering around, about the Epstein list of this. It's deeper than that. There's this
wow,
is there's elite people. There's high end politicians that went to the island and did things that need to be addressed. You know, these are
exactly.
little kids. These are little kids that they were doing things to. So we only have one good shot at this to take them all. And don't worry about oh well, the Democrats are not going to vote this. Trump is in full power. He could just turn this all around and do martial law. And now it's in the military's hands. The people that he's working with.
All right. Well, I don't think Trump's going to pull martial law. That's asking for it. That's political suicide for the midterms. However, I get what you're saying. Trump's in charge. The Republicans are in charge. I know there's a small majority in the House, but the Senate, hey, that's going to get wider too. The Democrats have dropped the ball right and left. They've represented a very small minority of people who and trying to play on the sensitivities of leftist white women or liberal white women in suburban areas who are
But
perpetually alarmed. The perpetually alarmed soccer moms, I believe. That's what Ann Coulter used to call them. But I
yeah,
always call them the terminally alarmed. Look, the Epstein files are important. We want to know what's in them. We want to know what happened because no matter no matter what side was there, no matter who was there, the politicians, the intelligence agencies, the international powers, they all have to be exposed and they have to be held accountable for for trafficking of humans. There were people have
Yes.
teenagers of non-consenting age in most areas. This is a problem. They ruined lives, and they did their best to silence people, whether it be uh, uh, or they threaten or they would terminally silence people who would speak up. So yes, I do believe that these people should be held accountable. I also believe that the Trump presidency, both of them, both the full gamut, both terms have been a net positive so far, which includes exposing government corruption, and that's important too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot has happened. Let's have some fun with Biden though, because he resurfaced as some kind of event, and he's saying, just like you were saying, that Donald Trump has reversed all sorts of Biden policies. Now, while you and I know that's a positive, Joe Biden's trying to play it off like it's a negative.
We see the apparent glee some of our politicians express while watching immigrants who are in this country legally torn from the arms of their family.
Wait. Okay, he's saying
legally.
No.
What? Jumping over a wall is legal?
Or letting
harassing our border patrol agents, shooting at them and stuff.
Yeah, committing felonies. Come on, he's lying to the people here. This is the National Bar Association Award Gala, where these liberals pat themselves on the back again and give each other awards. That's what all these things are nowadays.
What a disgrace!
And of course, they had to pick a lawyer who was at the bottom of his class, right? Near the bottom of his class. Remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
Sam Donaldson really went off on him for lying about him finishing way up at the top of his class and everything else with 3 degrees. Then he had to come back on it when he was running for president before. Now, he was probably saying it would take a really stupid electorate to bring this guy in as president. Well, look what happened.
And handcuffs from the only home they've ever known.
Only home they ever known. You mean the MS-13 gang members you allowed in here? You mean the people who just came in here over the last 4 or 5 years under your watch? Oh, I'm sorry, under your guidance to bring them in.
My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. It has been to ease all the gains we've made in my administration.
I believe, Vinny, that, my friends, is what we voted for him to do. What gains?
He can't get on the street, this guy. Right. He's got more stories than Disney. He should go work for them.
Why not? They're just as woke. They're more woke than he's awake.
They're more woke than anybody. and when the kid is grabbing Minnie Mouse and holding her, meanwhile it's a guy inside of the thing. It's not a girl. So you got to be careful when you bring your kids to these things. You know, people don't realize it.
Let's try this. Patriots, can you come up with a positive that Joe Biden has brought to this country when he was president over 4 years? Give me one positive. Just one. Can you do that? That's a challenge.
That's a big challenge for somebody to say he did something amazing. He didn't do nothing.
I have one. Okay. I have 2, actually. Stuttering awareness. Hey, I have a stutter.
What's his next trip?
He brought okay, and cocaine use awareness, cocaine abuse awareness.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's another one. That's two so far.
And meanwhile, his son is like this on the balcony.
Right. Sean Lucas has one. He decided not to run for a second term. Well, I'm not sure if he decided not to run for a second term, but I will say this. Another positive from Joe Biden is they propped him up enough to keep Kamala Harris from becoming president. So at least that's fine too. Well, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, I also put a post up about Michael Obama with short hair, and he said, "Well, I'm done. At least I'm done with this woke bullshit. Now you can call me Big Mike."
Well, you have to call it. You just have to call it bull poop, though. Okay, just
Yeah, right.
you gotta keep it.
But listen, Joan River was right when she was got out of her car to go into her house, and reporter asked you, "What do you think about a transvestite as you know, in the White House?" And Joan Rivers turned around and said, "We have one already, Michelle Obama."
Well,
And it
actually,
was right.
well, she said Obama's the first gay president. And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then she said Michelle's a man, and then look what happened to her
yeah,
real quickly. Yes, and
yeah,
she was a liberal, a longtime liberal. She helped them out a lot. But hey, she
yeah,
says one thing, and all of a sudden, a surgery she normally has on a regular basis, she dies.
yeah.
Yeah, that
You know, someone got paid off big bucks to
well,
have to
we'll
do
see.
that.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go into the territory of blaming or or saying this actually happened, but it's an awful coincidence. And the fact is, yes, the other side can argue, well, she was 81. Well, the fact is, do you realize she was 80 years old at one point and not even allowed in bars
Wow. I wonder why.
because most of her
I wonder.
body was underage? All right, let's go back to the Patriots. We found some positives. Oh, here we go. Padam 7126. He upped the stock of Depends. Good job there. Well, nice job.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. Maybe the stock of Geritol went up too.
Yeah. All right.
Uh,
So let's go with this a little more. Joe, here we go. Again, here we go. Here's another one. Sean Lucas. Biden actually showed us just how crazy the Dems are and how their policies are horrible. And that's actually true too. It woke up a lot of people because keep in mind, we all know that that there was a lot of shenanigans going on with the 2020 election. But there were people, and let's face it, there were people who were dissatisfied with Trump's antics and the way he acted a lot of times, even those who voted for him. So that was a minor factor, if anything, in 2020. Most of it was was the COVID rules, the mail-in ballots, and everything, and all the willy-nilliness and the way things were kind of changed for that election. There's other things that Dr. Corsi we'll talk about more. But you look at this, and people looked at the 4 years of the Democrat rule and saying, "Boy, these guys have gone way too far. They're destroying our country. They destroyed the economy. They kept printing up money. They kept sending money overseas. And then when Doge uncovered USAID, they're looking at how more radical they were. This is awful." Anyway, let's have a little more fun. There's a lot to talk about here, and we want to get to some of this. But did you know that Kamala Harris appeared on Stephen Colbert last week?
I saw a clip of her, but she would look like she was kneeling down, doing like one of these, talking like this. I didn't get that. I wasn't sure what the hell she was doing. I just thought it was funny.
Oh, I don't know what she's doing either. Maybe she thought he was Willie Brown. But the fact is, she has a book coming out called 107 Days. And apparently she's promoting it. And the perfect place to actually get an audience who will actually listen to her is Stephen Colbert's show. Because, the Dirty Dozen who were at the protest, his cancellation, they're liking it. The people in the audience who clap on cue, they love her too. So let's get a little piece of this interview here.
Walk on stage at that debate, and it did not go well. Spoiler: it did not go well in that debate. Therefore, you became the candidate. At what point in the month that followed that did people start saying you might need to be prepared for this?
Let me say something about Joe Biden. I have an incredible amount of respect for him, and
now look at her face. She's thinking, I really don't want to talk about Biden right now, and I just want to talk about my book here. And
I think that
I also think she's seething a little bit because the Democrats did give her a raw deal in a lot of ways. Although I will say that they never really wanted her to be president in the first place, or else they put her in to replace Biden back in 2023 to make her an incumbent. They set her up.
They honestly, I don't think after they saw her stupidity and the way with her laughing all the time and everything, they knew they had to make a decision. They gotta go get somebody else because she's not working. It's not working out. She's losing credibility with a lot of people. You know.
Exactly. Well, look.
Way that we should be thinking about where we are right now is to remember that we had a president of the United States who believed in the rule of law.
Well, we have that now, actually, but
who believed in the importance of aspiring to have integrity and to do the work on behalf of the people.
See, that's one of her stock answers here that she's always given. The fact is, I don't even think she believes it anymore. I do believe most Democrats are cultists at this point. They'll believe anything that comes out of their leaders' heads. But again, she tasted the power. She was so close to that. She thinks she was so close to power. And I believe she even thinks she was cheated out of it, that she's probably got a sour taste in her throat over the Democrats, the way they packaged her, the way they made her look like she brought joy to her campaign. They kept substance away from the campaign just so they can sucker people into voting for Democrats to keep some House seats. That's basically how it worked out with her. And she was absolutely used. But she's an idiot. Sorry, she can't handle the job. She showed she can't handle the job, and that's the truth. And again,
yeah, I know.
Watch the intro here. What's his name? Stephen Colbert was like sucking up to her from moment one.
Yeah,
this is the uncut version. Let me see. I'm gonna pull that up here. I'm a little late to the. Yeah, there it is, right here. Okay, here we go. Let's watch a little more. She's applauding herself like that's a perfect Democrat fashion.
The system. I think it's broken.
She thinks the system's broken.
I think there's so much. I mean, there are so many good people who are public servants, who do such good work, teachers and firefighters and police officers and nurses and scientists. All
right, there we go. Now, see, she's again going back to the old COVID mantra: scientists follow the science. This is all what the Democrats have learned over the years is they can energize their base with buzzwords and tugging on heartstrings. But after the Biden administration, and this is the truth, after the Biden administration, people opened a lot of, or at least enough people opened their eyes to the fact that this lacked substance, and it was really just a veneer to gain power and pretty much destroy the country as they tried to do over the last 4 years. And
plus the biggest slap in their face was that the American people wanted the border closed, and they came up with every excuse. Oh, it has to go to this, it has to go to that, it has to do this, it has to do that. Trump gets in first week, boom, done.
Well, that's
done. Well, against everybody there. You know, the Democrats, they're very well known as the biggest liars around. Even Fetterman is coming over to the Republican side.
Well, as you know, Fetterman gained some brain cells every day since the stroke, and he's becoming less and less more like a woke Democrat than anything else. There are going to be some Democrats that break off, but many of them know that somebody else. But many of them know that that the left has something on them. That the powers that be have something on them to make sure that people don't that they don't sing or they don't do anything. You have to have pretty much a lot of political capital at this point.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of political capital at this point if you're a Democrat to leave the party.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you're going to be out in the cold. You know, once you leave, they're not going to want you back. Right. You know, and if you betray them, like Fetterman's doing, and you know, they don't want him. You know, he's an outcast already. You know, they don't want. But at least he's saying that, you know, saying, the truth about his party. I mean, there was there's a thing I watched it yesterday on CNN. This clip that how matter of fact, it was put up by Barron Trump, put it up on his page, and I took it from his page. That CNN was saying how great President Trump is doing, and with the tariffs and this and that. And Barron Trump wrote, "Well, sometimes they tell the truth, CNN." You know, but they know it. CNN knows it. They know their goose is cooked. They they know Trump has everything.
Yes.
He has everything. They can't hide nothing. They can't hide nothing. There's no way that Trump don't have everything.
Well, you don't think Trump look, Trump knew how the Democrats operated. We're finding out this during the second term at this point for many reasons. One is because the second term, and he doesn't need to be reelected. And keep in mind with this Doge, with this situation, he knew that the Democrats were laundering money somehow to prop themselves up and look at their and push their unpopular policies. Look, they give money to nonprofits. The Democrats have done this for a long time. Something you could see on the surface is them giving is the Democrats approving what? Let's just say I'm going to throw a figure of $500 million at a place like Planned Parenthood. Okay. Now, Planned Parenthood turns around and donates 200 to 250 million. You watch that, look at an open secrets. They're very big donors to Democrats. They get federal funds, but they participate or for a long time they participated in political activities, giving money to Democrats, or their leadership has been giving money to Democrats. The idea is they enable these people to work, these people to have some kind of big, huge paying job under the understanding that some of that money is going to get kicked back to the Democrats. That you can see on the surface, even though slightly below. But what happened with Doge, all the money being flowed around and the Soros money and everything, that was way below the surface. You needed computer whizzes to figure all this stuff out and expose it. The Democrats knew that, and that's why they kept saying Trump's a threat to democracy, Trump this, Trump that, Trump is horrible, Trump's going to do whatever, because Trump had cocktail parties with these people. Trump probably helped these people along for a while. I'm not saying he did, but I'm sure he gave advice. I'm sure he knew that they were talking about this. And when everything went south between the two sides, he was hell bent on exposing them. And it was a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, this was in the making since I think 2015, 2016 to bring all this to a head and show the American people the real truth and no more cover-ups. Where your taxes are going. We're paying for stupid things, for transgender comic books. We're doing this, we're doing that, but we're giving millions of dollars to everybody else, millions of dollars, and we're not helping the people that really need it. I mean, even with, I don't want nobody to live in the street or anything, but honestly, people like on Section 8, they're on Section 8. They pass it down to this one. They pass it down to Section 8 should be for a couple of years to get yourself on your feet, go get a job, and make something of yourself. Don't wait every month for that check to come in so you could go hang out, go get a 40 ounce or whatever you want to do. Because I used to work in housing, and that's what all these people did all day. I said, these people don't work. They don't do nothing. There is some people that did work, and they had nice apartments. I saw their apartments and everything. But you have to stop depending on the system. The system is in its predicament because we abused it.
That's absolutely true. And
we abused it.
Right. And a lot of money is going to the pencil pushers in the middle too. So keep that in mind. The patronage jobs and those things that keep donors and volunteers employed. Well, let's put even that aside. You're 100% right. We do have a safety net. Every capitalist system has a good safety net to help people get back on their feet. I know people personally who have done that and made good lives for themselves afterwards. But my mother
Yes.
also worked at Head Start. She's seen the good side of it, but she's also seen the bad side. They had to do home visits, and they see these families not doing anything, and they had these big back in the 80s. They were the big projector TV sets that cost loads of money that we couldn't afford.
Yeah,
And, yeah,
but they had it.
right. And nicer cars
But
than
they
ours and
had it.
everything. Right, exactly. But where was that money going? That money's supposed to be going to the family and the kids. So the
Yeah.
question is, where does all that go? And we're going to have our guest T.S. Dixon come on, but I do want to play another little piece for you. New York might have hope with Elise Stefanik running for governor, and maybe not because of her, but because that people are coming to their senses a little bit more. And you're going to have a 2026 is going to be a congressional election. There are going to be more Republicans coming out. So think about this. Governor Kathy Hochul is trying to put out all the stops. So she's giving away some free money. She's made things very expensive for people, but she's kowtowed to her climate change crowd. She's already kowtowed to the rich Manhattanites in Lower Manhattan with the stupid congestion pricing driver's tax. But listen to her talk about Stefanik with ABC. This was over this weekend, and I want to point this out. This so-called journalist was loading questions up to tee them up to make them very easy for her and very favorable for Governor Hochul.
With the upcoming election, Mr. Trump is going to want to have a say over what's happening in this city. Without getting into the weeds about who's running for what, how big a problem is that going to be?
Well, not just the city, but if someone who's a mega Republican gets elected as governor, and there's one probably running
Against you?
against me. Think about the power that Donald Trump will have over everything in the state, including the city. That's what should give people great pause.
You're talking about Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and the president would
Look at him coaching her.
like her to run against you.
Sure he would. Sure he would.
She doesn't talk very nicely about you. She doesn't talk very nicely about anybody running for office in New York. There's one man who's running for office, and she calls him a commie man.
Oh, one man who's running for office. Let's welcome T.S. Dixon. Cousin Vinny, T.S. Dixon. So this
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, pal?
this
Good,
so-called journalist is fluffing up these questions for Governor Hochul and describes one man who Elise Stefanik called a communist. Well, I'm wondering who that one man is. And I believe, my friends, that person is an avowed communist. That would be one Zoran Mamdani. Mamdani.
Mangami. Mangami, that's his name. Mangami.
By the way, T.S. Dixon is the author of The Woke Mind Viruses. It's now in audiobook. And do you have a color by numbers version for liberals to use so that they can actually color while they're reading it too? That's what Kamala
That's a good
Harris is
idea.
doing with her 107 Days book to get them to buy it. So you do your adult coloring book while you're reading a couple lines at a time.
Yeah, they can color in some viruses. They'd love that.
Yeah, that's good.
And vaccines. There we go. As long as they're untested. Look, Zoran Mamdani. Okay, first off, let's go with Governor Hochul. Governor Hochul's doing her best to energize her base and make sure they go out. And she's working on gerrymandering New York because Texas is doing it. So we're trying to save the whole democracy. Yeah, okay. You're just upset because you almost lost and you're on the verge of losing the governorship. Zoran Mamdani is not just a gentleman who's running for mayor. He is the representative of how the Democrat Party is turned to the doubling down on wokeness, even though it's waning as far as power is concerned, and communism. You address this a lot in your book, The Woke Mind Viruses. How does this happen? I mean, it's almost like a new mutation of the woke mind virus every year.
Yeah, in my book, I go into the true origins, the background, the founding fathers, the true core beliefs, and the hidden histories of these movements on the left, this coalition. And there's really four groups: the leftists, like Mamdani. You have the liberals, like Pelosi's and the Schumer types. You have the woke, which are these radicals, and then you have the globalists, like the George Soros's types and Epstein types. And, they sit at the top of this structure, but together they all work together as a coalition to try and really conquer and dominate Western countries.
And again, this was the mantra from back in the early years of communism. You're talking about back when the Soviets started taking over, and of course Mao a few decades later on. The idea was that the communists, much like the Islamists, want to take over the world with their ideology. And
Absolutely.
and right now, the West used to be a very tough target for them. We used to have stronger leaders. We used to have governments and alliances which would fight back against communism and leftist governments. But no more. A lot of these people found a way to infiltrate academia, public education system, and of course, the governments. And we actually have their operatives inside, weaning us towards that way.
Yeah, this was a plan called the Long March Through the Institutions that came out of a think tank in England that was called the Fabian Socialist Society, that later formed the Labor Party, had a big influence on the liberal Democrats in America. And yeah, they slowly, through ownership, through corporate takeover, through blackmail and bribery, take over government institutions and private institutions and nonprofits.
Right, and this is, and if you think about this too, let's see, you have a lot of this came from a long time ago, back with the Frankfurt School, where these so-called intellectuals, and again, they love to call themselves intellectuals, but they're really pseudo intellectuals.
Correct.
They found a way to master. They found sort of a way to set up a university, give themselves credentials, the Frankfurt School, and of course they branched out to other universities afterwards because hey, they had credentials, and the credentialists will put them in. It's a way to spread the, if you will, woke virus. And again, I'm not talking about 2025. I'm not talking about 2015. I'm talking about 1930. I'm talking about 1940. Not long after the Gramsci toilet paper chronicles, which, by the way, I believe,
Absolutely. And the Frankfurt School was the think tank
right,
within that school there, of social studies, that came up with this theory of this reformed Marxism, or cultural Marxism, where instead of attacking and creating the class warfare they need to bring in the revolution of poor versus rich, they attack the other vector points that are weaknesses in Western society, like minorities versus the majority, or which is typically black versus white, women versus men, gays, lesbians, bisexuals versus the straights. Now you have transgenders versus heteronormative gender people. And so this is what they have to do: create division and create class warfare, and generate this narrative of the oppressors versus the oppressed, in order to destabilize society and ultimately bring in their control structure. Right now, though, that method has been co-opted by globalist powers and this technological oligarchy, and it's pretty dangerous what we're up against. That's why I think right now such an amazing time of populist uprising to try and reform these countries to protect us from what they have planned.
Penny.
Yeah, well, I think what he said is right. I mean, Trump is doing his best to make sure it doesn't happen that we become a one world government, and where we're controlled, and smart cities, and God knows what else. I mean, chips. I see these videos. I don't know if they're true or not, but they put chips in their hand and they're paying for products in Japan and stuff like that. It could be true. It could be happening. It could be, that's what they want. They want to control, like all the surveillance on the streets. Even though there might be a camera that you're going to a red light, but meanwhile, their camera's watching you 24/7, watching what you're doing. They have cameras that could go to buildings to see inside your house. You
No,
know, Alexa too. If you leave your Alexa on, it's listening to you in your house.
no,
There's a
no,
people don't understand this. Your life will be ruined. Put it that way.
TS, Vinny, I want to throw this at you too. The far left, the wokies, if you will, they can spread their virus in several ways. One of them is, again, that is their most, I guess, most prominent way, through public manipulation. They can take a concept. A lot of their hierarchy, if you will, their marketers, if you will, are able to find a way to take a concept that sounds decent on the surface. Like, let's just say, all right, clothing companies should appeal to plus size women, people who aren't the skinniest women in the world. They should also be more diverse in their advertising. Try to bring more people into the fray. And from a marketing perspective and from a human perspective, well, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. but then they overdo it. They sneak it in there. People say, "Wow, that's kind of nice," and then they step over the line. Started putting these, or they start over-representing people, like having trans models do these things with blatant beards, and they're huge and everything else, trying to normalize all their wokeism and manipulate the public that way. When it turns around and a company like American Eagle says, "All right, well, we tried that before. Now we're trying a different approach with a skinny white model," who, by the way, isn't really blonde. People think she is, but she dyed her hair. Not a big deal, but that's part of the argument. The idea is, oh, now you're going back to the 50s. You're going back to the 40s. No, you're just trying something different. People are whining about it, and they're now angry at this point because the vaccine for their wokeness, common sense, is starting to work on them or other people. Thoughts?
Yeah, you see the mainstream is starting to break away from this control and this manipulation. Everything that the left, the liberal order, and the radical woke do, it's all based on lies because their true beliefs, their core beliefs of hard left, Marxism, Nietzscheanism, and Darwinism, their core beliefs are so repulsive to the general public and so un-American and un-Western that they would be reviled and rejected, and they would never hold power. And so in order to gain power and gain control, they have to lie, and they have to use these manipulative tactics. And really, a lot of them are based on religious tactics because Marx was a secular theologian. And so when they're doing these things like, oh, you need to represent these unrepresented people, you need to have these obese women in your ads and whatnot and market that to the people, or else you're a bad company or bad person. These are really like religious guilt tactics.
And believe me, those worked. Right, Vinny? Those worked.
They're working to destroy their own companies. That's what they're working on. They're destroying their own companies. And to me, it's like a blackmail. They're blackmailing the companies so they go out of business. That's how I look at it. I mean, look at Budweiser. They had that whatever you want to call it, doing the commercial.
Yeah, you have to understand
the profits went down the tubes.
Well, the globalists own Budweiser. Okay, so really, when they were pushing the ESG scores and the woke corporate America, because they couldn't enforce it with the government in America because of the Constitution. So instead, they did it through their asset management companies like BlackRock, who own, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. They're a cartel of asset management companies. They own, something like north of 90% of ownership in Fortune 500 companies. And so, they own these companies. And so when they say you're going to have Gay Pride Month, they all say, yes, sir, because that's the boss. That's the ownership group, you see? So it's more about the agenda and the long-term gaining control over the society than it is about the quarterly or annual profits. And a lot of it they do through their deep state. And, a lot of the deep state, the core of the deep state are the intelligence agencies, which serve the banking power. They don't serve the people, the elected government. And so even with Budweiser, when you look at that, they took one of their cronies out of the CIA, and it was a CIA agent that was the CEO. He went from CIA to CEO of Budweiser during that Mulvaney thing. I mean, it's incredible how they have it worked out.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. There's also the other factor. The people that were manipulated joined the fray, and they get promoted too. You have these millennials who went through college, learned the bad way to do advertising. The hot blonde in the car, Brooke Shields modeling jeans and things like that, and sex sells, blah blah. But that's the bad way. The good way is the way Gillette handled that man commercial with all the how evil men are and everything back in the day. What was that? The Super Bowl commercial. Then they come in. They actually believe this because they're educated. They now have a piece of paper to prove the credentials. So they come in and they infiltrate companies like Jaguar and Budweiser and think, oh wow, look what's on TikTok. All these people on TikTok must be putting a trend together. They're getting a lot of followers, not realizing a lot of them are bots, not realizing a lot of the algorithms are manipulated to make them to prop up the far left opinions. And they say this is how things must go, so I have to market this way. There you got the most obnoxious. And again, you could probably get a trans person to do a commercial and people might not bat an eye. But even the gay and trans community, I'm pretty sure that they believe that Dylan Mulvaney's an obnoxious little twerp, if you will. And that wasn't going to help anybody buy anybody's product. As far as Jaguar, you know what? That commercial, the Sprocket sketch commercial from remember Sprockets from Saturday Night Live with Dieter? That commercial. What does it have to do with selling cars? It's just a bunch of I don't know, a bunch of woke people dancing around, doing nothing and staring at the camera in different directions. What is that? But they believe that this was going to work because that's what they're taught. That's how they were manipulated. And companies are realizing, what the hell are we doing now? We're draining money. It used to be we can change. They think they can change the world, but the world's not changing. In
Well,
that
they
respect.
learned Bernays style mind control
Yeah.
from Edward Bernays, who was in the family of
I like
Freud,
the sauce.
and he's the father of modern marketing and propaganda. And so, by controlling the narrative, and it was pretty easy for them to come in and buy up media companies, arts companies, studios, and media and whatnot, even buy into the education system. And so they've been washing our minds with these storylines and narratives and talking points for decades, plus more than 80 years. And it has been so effective to control the public. Now, when they want to bring in the next phase that's more extreme, they're trying the same tactics, but I think they're finding that it's having the opposite effect. It's snapping people out of the dream.
Yeah, I know. I noticed too that like I have friends and family that are Democrats, and when you try to explain something to them, the only thing out of their mouth is that Trump is a pedophile. You know, where's the Epstein's? And the other thing is that now the Trump administration is a cult.
Oh, they did.
That's the new thing that's getting thrown at me because Chris knows I'm a big Trump supporter, a big follower of Trump. And when I put it, I have to hear all the stupidity of people that have no idea what they're talking about because they don't do their research and they listen to the fake news all the time.
Well, let's say a cult. Let's break that one apart, gentlemen. The woke mind virus creates, let's just say, a cult, if you will. It's if you look at the people that accuse us or people who support Donald Trump as being a cult, well, what happens? Well, first off, Trump gets booed at his own rallies sometimes. Okay, let's just put that out there. His supporters don't always agree with him. That's number one. Number two, the people that are calling the Trump supporters a cult are the ones wearing matching clothing at protests. They carry matching coordinating signs provided for them. They carry matching masks. They have little armies of themselves running around and of LARPers trying to beat up senior citizens 7-on-1 because they support Trump. And of course, they chant the same line, "You're in a cult," as directed by, well, their cult leaders.
Well, it's
Yes.
a total projection. I mean, one of their leftist tactics from Marcuse was to accuse your enemy of what you're doing or about to do. And so, yeah, absolutely, they're a cult. Leftism was designed by Karl Marx to be a political religion because they felt they had moved past the Christian era in Europe, and they wanted to now have a replacement to give the people that would then in turn grant them unlimited power over their countries through the Communist Manifesto, the 10 planks of Marxism. And so that's what he created, a religion of political works, where if you support a leftist regime or a socialist government, then you are a good person. You're saving the oppressed. You're saving the less fortunate, the minorities. You're saving poor, helpless women, trans people, illegal aliens. You're a savior. You're a white savior if you join this cult, this religion. So they literally are a cult. We are a political ideology.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, here you go. The cult also requires a charismatic leader. A charismatic leader for them right now is Barack Obama. That's it. He's the face of the actual cult leaders. Man K pointed out about the cult of personality, if you will, settling around Barack Obama. But the question is, and we talked about this, Vinny, before with Tony and a lot of other guests, that the Democrats don't have a leader right now. They don't have people who can guide them to the next level, and they don't have people who legitimately could run for president. But what they really need to push their ideology, push their socialist ideology, their communist ideology, is a cult of personality leader. Barack Obama's effectiveness is waning. Who's taking over? Well, they tried Kamala Harris, but she's more the cult of annoying personality. And that, my friends, is what they have, the cult of annoying personality. That's not going to help them.
But they believe. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Democrat Party is a sinking ship. And so what you have left on that ship are the rats and the hangers-on and the manipulators and whatnot, these people that operate in these uncouth, unethical ways, and that's who's left there. But the people with any brains and any bright potential and future, they're abandoning ship as fast as they can. Look at Tulsi Gabbard, look at RFK Jr., look at all of these. They're realizing they were lied to. The Democrats were never moderate. There was no such thing really as a moderate liberal. That was a ploy and a con to trick the large independent base of moderates into thinking they were liberals and Democrats and that they were helping out the less fortunate. But really, it's just 15-20% of the country, these far left Marxists that lie and cheat to create their coalition so that they can hold power. That's it.
And now at this point, back in the day, you had you had real communists. You had the Democrats trying to mask their far left ideology. They kept like just taking an inch every decade. This was the plan. This is from again Frankfurt School on forward. Toilet Paper Chronicles on forward. By the way, did you know was it Buttigieg's father who translated the Gramsci Toilet Paper Chronicles? If I'm correct.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he comes from a long line of socialists. Yeah, so people don't realize Buttigieg never came out of the blue, even though he was a mayor of a small town. These people come from long lines of manipulative socialists, manipulative communists. So let's just pull that backward too. The idea is now they're not hiding it anymore. They have Karen Bass, Rob Johnson. They had that mayor lightweight over in Chicago before him. And now they're running this guy named Zoran Mamdani, or I call Zoran Mamkami, who, again, doesn't hide his communist leanings. He's like, I'm here. I want to control the means of production. Let's freeze the rent regardless of what happens. So then we can make New York a giant slum. Why not? That'd be great. We can make it look like every communist country, capital city in the world. It would be horrible. And you know what? I'm thinking, I read a headline that should tell everybody that Mamdani would be dangerous to any kind of city as a leader. That would be this headline. I believe it's Politico who wrote this one. Tish James is all in on Mamdani. So a criminal is all in for a communist. Okay, done.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I remember seeing that. Yeah, I remember seeing this a video about her. Honestly, to me, I take that as a disgrace to the United States. That's how I look at it. You know, there's people like Trump and the people that the Trump administration and the people he's picking, to be on his team. They want to do better for the American people. I mean, now that that Judge Pirro got elected in the top lawyer, already all over social media. Oh, that's another clown of Trump's. And these people. I'm saying to myself, how stupid are you? How stupid are you to say she's this, she's that, she's this, she's that? I mean, look at this. Look at the people that you elected. What do they do for you? What do they do for you?
Well, I mean, I guess she's getting all sorts of influence after that statue was put up of her in Times Square.
That's a disgrace too. To have, they took down statues that were up for years and years and years, and now they put this, or they put Biggie Smalls, and they put everybody else is okay.
Yeah. So,
but the people, the great people of America, they took down.
All right.
So they took the statue down.
So once again, you're going to be let's put it this way: you're going to be the anti-Dr. Fauci for us, TS.
Yeah.
Again, I want to implore people to pick up the book, whether it be audio or regular, or maybe even on Kindle and Nook or whatever you want to read. It's called The Woke Mind Viruses. You pair it up with A.J. Rice's the White Privilege album. That's definitely a good 2-book binge read for the weekend. Here we go. I want you to be the anti-Fauci. Let's discuss coming up with a cure for the woke mind virus. And I know there are going to be more cultish mutations in the future, but these people are dwindling. More people are being, as the kids say, red pilled these days. Let's talk about doing that a little bit more. What do we need to do? And it's going to take a generation plus to finish this, maybe 2.
I don't know if it will. I mean, I spend the last 2 chapters of the book going through solutions, and I go through case studies of the last several hundred years in the West of what's happened. And basically, my take on the situation is that we are going up against the third great tyrannical establishment in modern Western history. The first was the European papacy that dominated Europe and appointed all the kings for 1,000 years. And then their power was broken in roughly 1500 AD. And then we had the emergence of the New World and whatnot, and the formation of the Western Hemisphere. Then in 1776, you had the breaking of the power of the Bank of England, the British Crown, the East India Trading Company, and their worldwide spy networks. And this created America, created the free world, and then that went on to create the modern world that we have today and all the industrial revolutions. But now today, for the last rough century, a group of that call themselves globalists, that is a central banking and multinational corporate oligarchy, have been behind the scenes gaining more and more power, buying up more and more of our economies, our companies, taking more and more control of our governments. They run our spy agencies, which they call the deep state. And so they have been oppressing the people more and more. And now we're seeing these ideological pushes being forced onto the school children, onto our people, with this trans nightmare stuff, and worse, with the woke agenda and whatnot, which is a tool of this order, this group. And so, as we've seen in other eras of history, all it took was 3 words: a massive institutional reform. And even in America, we've had 3 great reforms. We had the revolution, then we had the freeing of the slaves under Lincoln, okay, and then we had the massive revolutions in the working environment and the government under Teddy Roosevelt. And these reforms are permanent. I mean, we still live under the blessings and the prosperity of these reforms today, and they've never been reversed. And so these Washington, Jefferson, which were the revolution, you had Lincoln, which was the Emancipation Proclamation, and Teddy Roosevelt, which were all the worker reforms. And so these are the men that are on Mount Rushmore, because they have really fought and took the bullets to literally to make the West in America what it is today. And so I see us as our populist movement on the in the midst of another great reform movement. And what it takes is what I call massive institutional reform. And there's 4 steps: the rediscovery, the retaking, the reforms, and then the redress of grievances, or the administration of justice. And it happens like that each time in history. So I would say, typically it happens with a populist sweep a charismatic leader like Trump and Geert and all of these ones from Argentina, El Salvador, Italy, into office with their conservative governments to reform the West. That's how it works. There is a process to it. We don't all have to go out and live in the woods and have a garden and raise chickens to survive. I hope we don't get to that point. But this is how our system works, and we can take it over, reform it, and then punish these evildoers and lock them in prison and have justice and deter them, any of the other ones, from doing it any further. We can break the power of this establishment. And so that's what I go into the book. I will say last point is that Trump has an incredible opportunity to do a war on government crime, expose these people, bring them to justice, and have a war on government theft and go after all of these networks that are stealing from us. We saw one with the USAID with the Doge effort. That's just one mole on war on the frog's back, so to speak. There is so much stuff going on. We are being ransacked and just stolen from, and it's affecting especially the poor communities and the younger generation, who are having less and less economic opportunities because so much of the wealth of the wealthiest country in the world is being stolen. So that's my prescription in the book: is massive institutional reform. Must be done by a populist movement that sweeps a proper conservative reform government into power. I hope it's Trump. He has the opportunity to be a Rushmore president. If he doesn't and he fails, they'll destroy him. And then whoever comes behind him may just realize what an opportunity it is and get their face on Mount Rushmore. We'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see. And of course, T.S. Dixon is the author of The Woke Mind Viruses. Check it out. And she says viruses because, again, we probably have a lot of them out there. We need, again, Dr. Fauci probably couldn't come up with a good virus for this, a good vaccine for this, but I am pretty sure you have. And check it out. It's all in the book here. I do want to give this to you because I'll play this for you guys, because Marty Kim of our Patriots brought this up in the live chat. That, hey, we talked about the Sydney Sweeney ad. It winds up she's come out as a registered, or it's been found that she was a registered Republican, and maybe seeing influencers, if you want. I hate using that term, but influential celebrities coming out and doing things that are traditionally American, like responsible gun use and maybe proficient gun use, and showing her having fun doing it might actually help influence young people as well. Maybe to think, America was great back then. Let's bring those days back. Let's just watch this. I want to see what you guys think of this. I mean, she looks like she's having a lot of fun.
Eyes up here.
Wow. 9.
I want you to just make sure she was very safe with the gun. She was responsible. She's a good shooter, and maybe seeing more of this rather than Gwyneth Paltrow talking about having a baby or something like that will be a more positive influence on young people. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, I think that is much more effective than some of these self-defense classes that they try to teach women. Will stave off, a 300-pound thug in a black dark alley. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mess with her.
No, not me. Not me. I won't mess with her either. I mean, that was some good shooting, but it promotes that guns are safe. It's the person behind the gun. It's not the gun causing the problems. That's what people don't understand. Governor Hooker was because of that shooting that happened a couple weeks ago. Blaming the gun. They want to stop the sale of guns to people and stuff like that. But it's not the gun. It's the person that's holding the gun. Plus, you saw a guy with an M16 walking in the street. Where were the cops? Nobody said nothing. You know why? Because everybody's walking with their face in their cell phones crossing the street. And they're not paying attention of their surroundings. This could have been all avoided. But, society looks the other way a lot today. They don't want to get involved with anything. They don't want to try to help somebody. They rather take their cell phone and videotape the whole thing so they can put it on social media. That's today's thought in people's minds.
And TS, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of this as people shed fear of the system punishing them for being American or being young or being attractive or being, having fun. And they shed and they get free from the guilt complex of this political religious nonsense like woke. So I applaud her, and I hope we see more and more of this as they just lose their societal and social power, over young people and, old people alike.
Yes, and thank you for being with us, by the way. I implore all of you to please hit the like button because we like that, and Ed likes it. And of course, it makes me think that you like the show, or at least you're kind of like humoring me and Vinny here and things like that. But also check out T.S. Dixon's website, and that is tsdixon.com. That's tsdixon.com. Check it out. You can get the book through there. You can get the book through Amazon or anything else like that too. And you learn more about TS as well. TS Dixon, we'd love to have you on again soon.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for being, and Vinny, thank you for being with us. Again, great time. Tony Shaffer's with us.
Excellent time. Excellent time.
We have a couple of cool guests ready for this week. So we're going to be talking to them and you all straight ahead this week on Wake Up Patriots. Thank you for being with us.